Hi everyone and welcome back. Today I'm giving you a average player's beginner's guide to the Hosho, the Tier 4 IJN aircraft carrier. Now the Hosho, this is believed to be her final form now. She's equipped with one squadron of attack aircraft, which are the ones that are equipped with rockets. She has one squadron of torpedo bombers now, and she also has her squadron of armor-piercing dive bombers. Now, don't let the fact that she now has torpedo bombers make you think that this is a high damage machine. It isn't, because when you go in for an attack run, as you'll see later, you only get one torpedo per strike. Now, they do arm very, very close to the target, so you're almost guaranteed to get a hit every time, but don't expect to become a massive damage dealing monster. And also, don't expect the fact that she has lots and lots of armor-piercing bombs to make her a massive damage-dealing machine. The Hosho isn't. Now, in giving her torpedo bombers, it does make her slightly better at taking out destroyers than she previously was, because in the previous incarnations we had during testing, only having attack aircraft with a low fire chance and armor-piercing dive bombers meant that destroyers could sneak up on you and blow you to bits. Now, with those limited torpedo bombers, it means you do have another tool to try and help you survive against them. Now, the other problem that the Hosho will face is the fact that at the moment, anti-aircraft firepower from ships at Tier 4, along with ones that basically across the board, Wargaming have upped the anti-aircraft firepower of all ships. Now, it's so-so at higher tiers, but down at Tier 4, don't expect to get a clean strike on a Miyogi, because a Miyogi will wipe out your dive bomber squadron. Your torpedo bombers will probably get wiped out even with the upgrades before you reach your target. And this can be very, very frustrating for a Tier 4 aircraft carrier. It's not so prevalent with the Langley, but that's because the Langley, she has torpedo bombers as well, the same problem, only 3 per wave, but the Langley has a huge fire chance. She's got high explosive bombs, which have a wonderful fire chance, and those rocket-equipped aircraft as well. So the Langley makes up for the enemy having lots of anti-aircraft firepower with sheer amount of wave after wave of fires that she can cause and damage over time. That's the Langley's bread and butter. And with the Hosho, you don't get that. You get those armor-piercing bombs and citadels that can't be healed back by enemy battleships, but it's almost like the Hosho was given the tools to be a good aircraft carrier, but she just doesn't excel in any particular one of them. The armor-piercing bombs are mediocre. Yes, you can get citadels, but the damage isn't amazing. The torpedoes, if they hit, they're alright, but they don't have a high chance of flooding. And the attack aircraft, they do some damage, but mainly you have to hit the superstructures, because otherwise they'll just hit the deck and they'll spall off. That doesn't make the Hosho a terrible carrier. It just makes her very mediocre. You know, gone are the days when you can have fantastic cross-drop torpedo salvos and wiping out enemy ships left, right and centre. Do not expect that with the Hosho as she is now. Now, onto the other problem that carriers have. They have an automatic damage control party. Now, just don't look into that. Basically, it won't activate if you're set on fire, because you'll only be set on fire for 5 seconds. But it still has the problem that if an enemy destroyer sneaks up and wants to sink you with the torpedoes, once you are flooding, you will flood to death. And don't even get me started on the fighter. It will protect you against an enemy, but expect it to activate after the enemy has done all their drops and has flown home. just forget about your consumables, because you have no control over them, and the AI will decide whether or not you live or die with them. It's just something you have to get used to. And your two choices of consumables: air groups modification 1 to increase the speed of the aircraft return to your carrier. This is very good because it will mean that when combined with your captain skills, you should always expect a full strike wave to set off. And in aircraft engines modification 1, increase the engine boost time for your carrier's planes. Very, very important. You want to get there as quickly as possible and have the longest engine boost you can. Not only does the engine boost on your planes come in handy when you're flying towards an enemy, but also when you accelerate and decelerate during an attack run. Very, very important. That's it for the upgrades. Let's have a look at the captain skills and what I would recommend. Now, first skill, you'd want to get improved engine boost. Once again, increase the engine boost time for your squadrons. As I said a moment ago, it's very important when you're trying to get to an enemy quick, trying to scout an area, even down at tier 4, because later on, as you go higher up the tiers, having your captain know this skill will become more and more prevalent. For your second skill, improved engines. Increase the speed of your aircraft carrier squadrons. Once again, along with the speed boost, giving them an initial faster speed will allow you to get into location quicker, allow you to go into a strike quicker, and should help you avoid the astronomically evil anti-aircraft firepower of the ships you're going to be facing. For your tier 3, aircraft armor. With the massive boost that enemy ships now have for their anti-aircraft firepower, anything that can help your planes survive longer is an absolute bonus and a must. So aircraft armor should be your third skill. Finally, for your first tier 4, don't be tempted to go concealment expert. I am more tempted to go for sight stabilization. This improves the aiming time of your aircraft all across the board. So your attack aircraft, your torpedo bombers, and your dive bombers all get an improvement to their aiming speed, which means you spend less time in the enemy's anti-aircraft aura and allow you to hopefully get at least that strike off. Otherwise, you're going to face wave after wave of losing your squadrons left, right and centre, and it becomes very, very frustrating, believe me. Then, when you finally get some more points and become a 14 point, go concealment expert then. One other thing. With the advent of the torpedo bombers on the ships, on the aircraft carriers, it means now at tier 4 you get 2 charges of fighters. Now use these sparingly. Use these when you want to protect your allied ships. Now what they do is they produce a circle and they summon a squadron of fighters. Now I would not use these early in the game, because the enemy CV has unlimited planes. I recommend using them late game to protect caps, to protect hopefully when your destroyer is capping, you spot a low health anti-aircraft cruiser that could do with some help. Very important late game. Don't be tempted to waste these fighters early, because tier 4 CVs regenerate planes so quickly that you will just waste them. There's only one upgrade on the Hosho, and that's the hull. I recommend getting it early because it is a boost to your health. It's not by much, but it does increase your maneuverability and your anti-aircraft defense, which should help you survive longer. And that is about it for her. Now, that's enough theory crafting and tell you what she's like sitting here in the port. Let's go out there and see what she's like on the seas. So here we are, we're on the ring map. It's a domination game and it's predominantly tier 4 with, I see there is a player on each team that's playing in a tier 5, so that should be interesting. Now you should note that the game is primarily bots, and that's because there weren't that many actual players testing things at low tier on the test server other than aircraft carriers.
Autopilot mode enabled.
I'm going to position myself down south, and I'm going to head down towards that very southern island, which is where I'm going to stay for most of the game. So I'm out of direct line of sight, and only if a destroyer gets close, or if the enemy carrier sends planes over to find me, I should be completely protected. Now, I always start every game with sending up a squadron of rocket-equipped fighters. This is so that, well, the rocket-equipped fighters are actually the fastest of all the planes that you can get. And with their speed boost, they can get into position very, very quickly. You can get those early spots. You can see where the enemy team is going to provide that information for the rest of your team. And you can get some very quick early damage. And if you're lucky, set a fire, which could mean they'd have to burn their damage control ability. So we're going in. We're going to fly in as close as we can over the cap, and we've started to spot most of the enemy team. Now I'm going to go for this cruiser here. I believe it's French. It is. It's the French Tier 4, and 5 hits, no fire. That's because of the very low fire chance that these rocket equipped planes have, and that is generally the downfall that the Hosho has. You can't deal much damage over time because the fire chance is so low, but you can get some good incapacitations with them. So 5 penetrations, 10 pens overall, 6,000 damage. Now we're going to send up some armor piercing bombers. Now I do like these armor piercing bombers, they're very good, and you have a very good chance of getting some citadel hits, but not as much chance as you had for some reason during testing. Now, the problem that the Hosho suffers from is it's not very effective at dealing with destroyers. You're good at dealing with the enemy CV, enemy battleships, and enemy cruisers. But to try and take out an enemy destroyer in a Hosho, unless they're very low and you get lucky with your rocket equipped fighters, just forget it. You will not. You'll get over pens, you'll miss, and it just isn't worth it. So we're going in on this cruiser again, and there you go, 2 citadels and another incapacitation on him. Now, as you can see, those citadels didn't do a lot of damage. We were already at 10,000 and we're only up to 12. And that's because these armor piercing bombs, even though they have a maximum damage of over 3,000, it's very, very difficult to get that big score. Now, I thought that was a good strike then. Evidently RNG says no. And it looks like the enemy team are capping Alpha. So we're going to do our last run of these AP bombers on this French cruiser, and did we get a hit? And another citadel. Lovely. And there you go. There was that 3,000 maximum damage that you can get. So it looks as if my team need a little anti-destroy help, so I'm going to send up some rocket-equipped aircraft, see if I can set some fires, and try to generally help them out at this moment. I've done some damage, that's good, but it's not just about dealing damage. You'll find when you play an aircraft carrier, especially lower down, that you actually have to help your team prioritize the targets. You have to help them finish off those targets that need taking out, that are in strategic positions. So I'm going to go for these destroyers. Wait for it to aim, 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 aim. And aim ahead, and 2 hits. Not bad. But that's the general gist you'll learn when playing an aircraft carrier, is that now you have the ability to control where you can put your assets, where you can strike. And I think I either missed or completely mistimed it, and my squadron got shot down. And I forgot what I was saying. But the problem you do face is the fact that even though you're good at dealing damage at locations as they're needed, you're stuck with the fact that your damage dealing ability, especially at tier 4, is very, very low. You can't deal those big numbers you're limited. Now, your highest damage dealing weapon are your torpedo bombers, but they're a blessing and a curse. Destroyers can outmaneuver them. Enemy battleships, well, you only get 3. Well, as you can see, they're being absolutely wasted by the enemy AA. There goes one. We're going in for a strike. Now, when you're going for a strike, only one can actually strike at any given time. Now, I misjudged that, and I didn't have enough time to launch my torpedo, because when you go in for an attack run, you have a waiting time as you're preparing for the strike, and then you go in, and when it turns blue, that's when you can drop the torpedo. But with a torpedo, you also have a distance counter, because when it hits the water, it then has to run a certain distance before it can arm. So it's twofold, and if you muck it up like I did, you end up completely wasting your planes, and it's a complete waste of time. So plan accordingly. Don't suffer the same problem that I did just then. So we send up some more armor piercing bombers. We're going after this cruiser again, because as we all know, damage dealing wins you XP and credits. And we're going in for a strike, aiming for the middle where the Citadel is on this cruiser, and dropping ahead of him, and another Citadel, and 20,000 damage. But as you can see, even at tier 4, Wargaming's anti-aircraft firepower on these tier 4 ships is absolutely brutal. The only saving grace that you have at tier 4 is that your replenishment doesn't take very long at all. So you'll find you always have enough aircraft to launch your strikes. Don't get too used to it though, because at a higher tier, you will find that you'll be sending up squadrons that aren't full. And yes, it will get frustrating, but being able to prioritise yourself. Now, as you can see, there's a destroyer coming towards me. Now, I noted him, but I didn't really want to have to call back my torpedo bombers, because I want to go in for a strike. And I believe at the time that the Allied battleship will be able to take out that destroyer heading for the cap. So we're going in for a run. That battleship looks like he's going backwards. Yes, he is. I think he ran to the island. And you can aim pretty close. And there we go. One strike. And 4,000 damage. Now, these will do 4,000 damage. I don't think there's much torpedo protection at tier 4. If there is, I think it's minimal even on battleships. And there we go. I managed to get a strike then on that Svevlana, and that's one kill. And we're just over 33,000 damage. 4 Citadel hits. And we're going to use this last torpedo plane on this cruiser. Hopefully sink him. We've put enough effort and focus on him. But that's the thing you'll find. Yep, there we go, taken out. And yes, I was right, that was the French tier 4 cruiser. But I hope you can see from this just how much you have to strike the enemy ships over and over again. You're not capable of dealing that massive knockout punch like you have previously with aircraft carriers who being able to cross drop. Now you have to try and prioritise, you have to aim, and that was a terrible run on my part. That was, I don't know if it was the aim or whether RNG just said no, but that was absolutely awful. So I'm going to swing around again. I know roughly where he is in that smoke screen. Hopefully we can fire off. Nope, and I missed. Right. So I'm going to send up some more armor piercing bombers as I have a full squadron. And we're going to see if we can take out a battleship. Now, your torpedo bombers being a smaller squadron, they're relatively fast. Your fighter equipped rocket aircraft are exceedingly fast. But your bombers are quite slow in comparison. Now, the good thing is, if you have it set up the way I have, that you'll find that you can negate that with your captain skills, with your upgrades, and so on and so forth. So you can make that speed boost last a lot longer and replenish a lot quicker. So we're going in on this Orion now. Aim for the middle where Citadel is, and hopefully get the Citadel hit off and There we go. One pen, one overpen, and a hit to a citadel. Now, it's basically the death of 1,000 cuts with the Hosho. You don't deal lots of fire damage, but you can deal those nice citadels. But you have to aim. And as you can see, his AA is actually shredding my planes, so that I only get 2 strikes off on him and not 3. But that's another 2 citadels for a total of 7 and 44,000 damage. So I send up my rocket equipped planes to see if we can start setting some fires. Now, what I should have done, hindsight's a wonderful thing, is I should have launched... Oh, what did I decide? Yep. Now, I decided at that point that rocket equipped planes weren't the right answer. So, because there's no enemy destroyers left, my rockets aren't going to deal a hell of a lot of damage. And I spotted the enemy furry taco. And that is a player controlled ship that I remember from the loading screen. So I'm going to go after him. Now what I should have done is, noticing that the enemy carrier was focusing my last remaining battleship, I should have launched my torpedo bombers, flown over him and used the defensive fighters to go over him. But the enemy makes it to 1,000 and we lose. So even though I had a pretty good score, as you'll see on the results screen, the Hosho's good, but you have to know where you're going to strike, and it takes time, but you will get used to it. Overall, she's okay as a tier 4 carrier, but you will find that the Langley is a lot better. Thank you very much for watching, and I will be putting some more of these out, and I'll catch you on the high seas.